Alright, Guilty Gear Strive 1.1 tier list. Finally, not a tier list shit, you know. Finally, it's been a few months. As usual, we start with the disclaimer. The letters mean something, the letters mean something, the letters mean something. Holy shit, the letters fucking mean something. Stop telling me that B is fucking trash. Please stop doing it to me, please. I fucking really get angry when people say that shit. The letters mean exactly what you think they mean, okay? Cool. How would I settle this version? It's less balanced than the previous version, but it's kind of interesting. They added a couple of really strong DLC characters, strong and interesting DLC characters. And I think there's a couple of really important things that makes a character good in this game, and we'll go into it once I make the list. So first, I will save the viewers by making the list first, and we will talk about the characters after. Also, other disclaimer, this is not ordered. It's just grouped. By the way, to the person who has said I was downplaying Nago, here you go. But it is just mids, by the way. We all will make it. We all will make it. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. By the way, if biking goes anywhere, I think it's probably here. This is my kind of prediction on where biking goes, but this is basically how I'm feeling at the moment. So again, before because people always misinterpret, the characters are not in order in the tiers at all. There might be a little bit of discrepancy in the S- group. And also, I think Chip might be S- tier, but I'm not sure. Chip might be slightly higher, and Jacko also might be slightly higher. Jacko might be A+, and Chip might be S-, and that's basically it though. Okay, so we will go from the bottom up, or we'll go from top down. Let's go from top down. The S tier basically shows what is the most important shit in the game. And the most important thing in the game, in my opinion, is combo conversion ability, probably more than anything else, and access to win condition. Ram, in this patch, I think she has easier access to her win condition than the previous patch because it changes to her Rekka and her combo structure. Leo, of course, consistently gets backturn off basically everything, including his reversal. And then Nago, not only is he incredibly strong at round start, and he gets to like wall break from round start situations, but basically him making you block puts you in his win condition. All three of these characters' conversion abilities out of control. Then when you go to the S- tier, these characters are pretty consistent as far as conversion ability, and they have very strong win conditions that are pretty accessible. And the reason why they're not S tier is either they have some type of glaring flaw that they can't really do anything about, or they just don't like super excel. Because like some characters like Gio and Kai, they don't have like blatant flaws, where like Zato has like shit defense, like he has no DP, no reversal super, 0 guts, or like Happy Chaos, no DP, no reversal super, so like once you get him, right? When you go to A+, these characters are pretty fair. These characters are pretty unique too, so they're really focused on doing like one thing. They do it pretty well, but they just don't do it as well as the characters above them, in my opinion, besides Chip, who I think might be at S- tier. I think Chip might be higher, and I also think Jacko might be here, and I'll explain why. And then the A tier, I think they have strong win conditions, but it's just hard to access for some reason. The characters in B tier have good stuff, but they just don't get to do it as much as they would want to. That's all. Okay? Sounds very similar to the A tier, but it's a more continuing theme in B tier as opposed to A tier. So starting from top, like I mentioned, Ram, her win condition is still the same. Like, she corners you, runs that pressure, everything converts, and it converts more to the wreck, as like I mentioned. She does a shit ton of damage. She has a single hitting super, so she doesn't build a lot of burst when she breaks the wall. Really easy to use in positive. Really good gold burst structures. Just really good structures for everything to access that corner pressure structure. Leo, as I mentioned, so while his frame data itself isn't as good as Ram and Nago, he gets his win condition off everything. He gets to mix you off absolutely everything. His defense is incredibly strong, so he has a lot of life, and he's got a good DP, 7 frame DP. That's a flash kick. That's really hard for people to deal with. On top of that, I think all 3 of these characters have amazing anti-air, and having good anti-air is important in all Guilty Gear, but very important in this game because of how easy it is to hit confirm off them, because there's no air teching, and the air mobility is not like previous versions. Like, it's kind of hard to catch people off guard with like air dashing and stuff. So then you have Nago. So like I mentioned, really strong round start converting into like win condition situation. He does a shit ton of damage, mad life, mad guts, good defense, pretty good defense. He has a 6 frame backdash, everything converts, and his strike and throw, like, both outcomes are bad. So while you can definitely mitigate these situations, I've talked about it on stream and on YouTube a bunch, it still doesn't change the fact that it's very, very strong. Then S-, so Zato, and again, this is not in order. This is not in order. Zato, so I think since he gets his best offense from catching you neutral, I think it's incredibly strong. His main issue tends to be like matchup and defense. Like, he just has like a couple of struggle bus matchups, like Ram's a good example. But once he gets you in his winning situation, like, it's really strong. And because of positive, he's able to keep it after wall break, and his damage is really high. And his conversion ability, so while he's not like really good at converting jabs, for example, he can convert some really random shit into really high damage, and he can convert neutral into mix-up situations really well. So all those things are really strong, in my opinion. Ino, she has a lot of special properties on her moves that make it hard to like pin her down. And if she catches you, she's really, really strong. Her offense is really, really overwhelming. And unlike some of the other characters that I mentioned before, she really forces you to do something, because if you don't do something, she's going to keep on pushing that, am I going to dash, am I going to do instant overhead, and things like that, right? I think it's incredibly strong. Her gold burst is really strong too, and she is an example of the later the game is, the better she is, because she'll have meter to do stuff. There's a couple of other examples like that, like I think Nago has this, for example, where like when the game came out, people were like, oh, Blood Rage is not good, you want to avoid it, but people like Hotashi have shown ways to get like setups with Blood Rage, and when Blood Rage is over, you get a pause button, the screen freezes, and you get to do something right away. You get to see what the opponent is doing and do something right away. So I think Ino has that same type of theme. Soul is just like incredibly consistent character. Like, he still has the very scary offense. He's still good at building risk. He still does a lot of damage. I think it's just easier to interact with him in general, and certain things do a little less damage, and certain things are easier to deal with and punish than before. But he still has also the best overall defense in the game, I think, as far as defensive option spread. He has 3 frame 5k, 7 frame DP. His return is super high off everything. He can punish things that other characters can't, and he gets a combo. It's not like a punish, like a hit punish. It's like a combo punish. So I think all these things are very strong. Mei, still good. Big ass buttons. You know, it's Mei. She's gonna run around, press buttons. Plus frames, lots of damage off a command grab. Pretty decent mix up. Really good return. She got zoned, basically, I think is our only issue. Happy Chaos, so he's like a DLC character. Right now he's kind of on the chopping block. People don't like him that much. A lot of people think he is probably stronger than S-, but I think there is a lot of counterplay to him, and he has some pretty direct weaknesses, mainly around his defense is not good. He does have the unique thing of he is actually good at mashing. Like, if he mashes out, he will get like a full combo, which is pretty rare for this game. But I think it's an okay trade, considering that he really has like no defensive options. If you haven't seen it, I mean, it's about the gun and shooting you and zoning you out, but you have to build a really specific game plan just for him in particular. So he's really good at controlling neutral because of the steady aim stuff. The main good things about him is his neutral control and his return. Like, he converts everything into wall break, and once he wall breaks, it's tough. Let's say it's tough. You're gonna have to sit there for a while and take those shots. And he also, even though you can make neutral like safe, he does eventually force you to make choices, because if not, he's going to zone you forever. So you have to eventually like pull up and take like small risks on things like him reloading multiple bullets, focus, things like that. So Geo's a character that basically has no weakness, I think, really. Like, if I had to say she had a weakness, I'm like, I don't know, she doesn't have a DP. She's a very quiet character because she's not very commonly played, but I think she's really strong. She builds a lot of risk. Her mix-up is good. Her meter usage is good. Button super is mad damage. She gets buffed the more meter she has, so positive implicitly helps her. She has pin straight up. Her air super is anti-air, and there's basically no freeze, and it's plus. Her conversion ability is mad good. She's really good against burst, really good strike throw. Like, there's not, and they buffed her dash in this patch so that she can act faster out of dash. So unlike other fast characters like Milia and Chip, who you're like, oh, like they're fast, so I gotta like play like this. It's not just that she's fast, but she's fast and traveling with normals at the same time. So it makes it pretty hard to gauge where she's going to go. I think she's really a really solid character. And she's kind of unique in that, like, she just doesn't do this better, basically, is why she's not S tier, in my opinion. Like, if she did what she did a little bit better, she would just be S tier. She has a really nice matchup spread as well. I actually really like this character, Giovanna. Then there's Kai, Kai's come a long way. Like, when the game came out, people thought he sucked, but they gave him a lot of buffs since the game came out. His neutral control is really good, especially in a game where the air dashes aren't very fast. He's got a good anti-air, good damage output, good neutral control overall. Decent mix-up, good pressure threats. I think he's just an all-around solid character. And since some characters are so focused on like doing things a really particular way, he's good at stopping characters from doing stuff, which is also an aspect that is really important to this game. So then A+, but again, I think Chip is kind of S-. I just didn't really make up my mind. So since I haven't made up my mind, I'm just gonna have him on the lower end. So Chip is, I think he's really good. He's very fast. His defense is really good. His pressure is really good. He's kind of like a snowball type. Like if you don't do something, then he's going to keep building meter until he can mix you, and he's got like a bunch of good ways to mix you up. My main things is like, one, he does take a lot of damage. That is an issue, and a lot of characters have really high return in this game, so that's one problem. Another problem is for the characters can challenge him well because of the way he's doing pressure compared to the way, like, let's say Ino, because Ino does also. The characters that can challenge him well, they do a shit ton of damage if you're correct. You just shit ton of damage if you're correct to him. So I think that's kind of an issue too. Then you have Axel. So Axel is like your normal control. Like, he uses normals to zone. So he really struggles against fast characters. It's probably like his biggest issue. But he has a pretty unique place in the game because he does well against characters that most people consider to be really hard to beat or might be like really annoying. So like Leo, for example, Potemkin. Most people actually say Nago, but I have the feeling that Nago Axel is even. So he's in a pretty unique spot where he's good at controlling the pace of the match. His offense is not great and his defense is not great, but his neutral is amazing, and he has a really high damage output for a defensive character playing the way that he does. Then Potemkin. So I make a lot of jokes about Potemkin, but I actually think he's pretty good in this game. He's very simple, very straightforward, and really hard to deal with in this version. He always has a chance at winning. It's probably the theme of Potemkin. I say this because he's always going to get resource because he has a ton of life and his meter gain is good. So no matter what, he will have an attempt to try to get Garuda impact into 50-50, and if he hits you with either, the damage is the same. It's kind of like similar to Nago. Like, both the strike and the throw really suck to get hit by, and he could turn games around really quickly. Even though the game looks really bad for most of the time, if he gets in once, then it's going to be tough, and he will have an opportunity for sure between meter options like Kara, Mega Fist, and Hammerfall Pure C. Then there's Baiken. I'm calling this one kind of fast, but I kind of feel like she's probably going to end up being around A+ tier, mostly because I think her normals are really good and she's very mobile. Her offense is amazing. Her mix-up is amazing. Her defense is better than okay. She has very unique options on defense. Her biggest issue is probably a conversion ability over everything else. She has really good slash normals, like far slash and 2S, but she can't convert them unless they're crouching or it's counter hit. So it makes her not as consistent as other characters that play at that range. But if she gets started, I think it's over. Okay, so then we move to A tier. So A tier, we gotta start with my girl, Milia. So I have a lot to say about Milia. By the time this video comes out, I probably put out my video on how I had a long discussion on how I feel about Milia right now and like things I'm trying to experiment with and stuff. So a short summary, if you haven't watched that, is basically I think Milia is good but unstable. Out of the mix-up characters, she doesn't get to do win condition into win condition in a very direct way with disc. So compare that to Leo, where like all his shit is going to lead into back turn in front of you, or Ino is going to be either like walking up and doing 2K or a dash button or things like that. Like Ino has ways to loop her strong situation. For Milia, it's kind of difficult. Her conversion ability is not great, but it's not bad. Her defense is not super great either at a glance, but it's good in a unique way because she actually gets to like jump to escape where many characters don't. She also benefits from having a couple of unique matchups that she plays really well. And quite frankly, besides the knockdown thing, which is honestly pretty minor overall, her main issue is return, but not in the way that people think. Because most people think it's raw, like she doesn't do a lot of damage. She can do a lot of damage. The issue is that in a lot of matchups, she has to use stuff that doesn't lead to a lot of damage to fight in situations, and that's where the actual she doesn't do a lot of damage comes from. So there's actually quite a few of these characters, and I like to use Nago and Mei as examples because I'm still going to use Milia in these matchups, where Milia is technically not advantage only because of return, and that's it. Like, she has all the tools. She actually has a really strong tool set. She has all the tools to fight these characters. It's just you can't get hit the one time, and they will definitely convert the hit into a combo where you might not be able to. So because of that, she has a bunch of slight disadvantage matchups. And when I say a bunch, I mean like a bunch. I think she has like 8 or 9 disadvantage matchups straight up. And then you have Gold Lewis. So Gold Lewis is kind of similar to Milia, where it's like the thing he wants to do is not immediately accessible. So unlike Milia, Gold Lewis is the definition of return, right? The definition of return, but he has to get over there. That's probably like the hardest thing about him, is actually making it to the opponent and like doing the thing that he has to do. On top of that, the guard crush change, which doesn't really affect like Soul and Leo and Potemkin so much, actually affects Gold Lewis a decent amount, and it forces him to overextend in his offense, which I don't like the way he plays, so I'm kind of happy, but at the same time, it does affect him as a character. And then you have Jacko, who, by the way, I said I feel like she might be A+, right? She might be A+, secretly. I think this character is really underrated. I think her win condition is really overwhelming and hard to deal with. I don't know how much of this is more matchup, like anti-Jacko needs to be developed. Personally, I need to keep on exploring this character. I've been putting a lot of time into learning how to fight this character recently, because her ceiling as a character can be pretty high, and there's a lot of structure she had between like how you control neutral, how you pressure, return, using the offense super in the corner. There's a lot of things I think that's like pretty good about her. She gets meter quickly. She has chip sequences using clap and things like that. She's good with positive. She has a lot of moves that travel that are kind of annoying to deal with, like 5H. I think this character can go up. Can just only go up over time, I think. But she has a cap because there are gaps in what she does. And a lot of people are usually like, the time she's the weakest is at start round because of the way her resource works. And I think also she basically like doesn't run out of resource very often, which in a game about managing resources, like characters like Zato and Nago and HC have to manage like a separate resource. I think hers is like pretty overwhelming in that like she doesn't lose it, basically. So then there's a couple more. So after A, we go straight to B. So these two characters, Faust and Wanji, they both gotten buffs, but buffs that help, but it's not enough. I think in particular, they are scared of Faust being good, straight up. In particular. Where Wanji, I'm not sure. So for the people who were sad that Baiken doesn't have Susanon, Wanji has it. Wanji took it. But Wanji, especially in like offline context, I think I think it's just really hard for him to like straight up hit people. You have to condition people, and it's kind of hard. His damage output is really good, and they buffed like things like Butterfly and his fusion so that he's a little bit more flexible. But I still think there's too many gaps in what he does. Faust, a huge issue is conversion ability. Like quite frankly, I think his normals are really good right now. I think his conversions are just shit, frankly. And if they buff his conversions, he'll be a lot better. But if they buff his conversions, I feel like he will jump straight to like S- or S, because his potential to snowball and his neutral control is ridiculous. It's really, really, really fucking good. But yeah, that's basically my summary. None of the characters in this game are bad. I think all the characters in this game are good. Some characters are just eating more than others. And again, the theme of the game is accessing strong situations consistently. Boom. I guess that's the theme of all fighting games secretly, but